It is now my pleasure to ask Dr. Abubakar Kargbo, the Director General of the National Commission for Democracy, to have his own say on this topic.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I would like to request that I stand, having been used to lecturing for the past 40 years. I think I want to stand so that I will better apply myself. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I think we're here trying to merge between theoretical politics and political science itself. We are limited by the topic to sort of critically assess the nexus between development and peace building. I would have loved to go back to the history of Sierra Leone because the historical materialist method might help us to discern what has gone wrong over the years. And as a communicator now as well, I would have liked us to use the lingua franca, because what I'm going to say might perhaps be too technical. But anyway, since we've started speaking the Queen's language, I think we can carry on with it.
No, you're free to mix.
Yeah, I want to thank the organizers of this conference. And as somebody coming from a commission that dealt with or is also dealing with peace in terms of democratic good governance, we've identified such a problem very long time ago. You may recall that even after the 2012 elections, the National Commission for Democracy decided to convene a national consultative conference in 2013. Because we've done a lot of research and we've come to the realization that Sierra Leone is being polarized. And if you go back to history to find out why the polarization, we can say in terms of political science, it is natural for tribes to have affinity with each other. But as a state, it's contradictory, because the state should be likened like a machine, where every part of that machine should function. If not, the machine will become defunct. Similarly, the state will become defunct if any part of these 17 tribes decide to do otherwise. Then that state will become a diseased state. And this is what we want to fight against, so that Sierra Leone will not become a diseased state, which is why this consultative conference is apt in terms of ensuring what? National unity and cohesion. It's of the essence. We cannot live in a state that is divided. If we are shy to saying or identifying such a phenomenon in our country, then we are not good citizens of our country. This is why we want to sort of look at this conference critically. Like what my colleagues have said, we need to come out with resolutions after identifying the problems. Nobody would like to talk about the electoral system of Sierra Leone. Why? Because it was given to us by the British. First past the post. Do you think it's all good for an ethnically based society? A society that has 17 tribes? I think the Kenyans will tell you that they have an admixture of the proportional system. We had it, but it was debunked. We were not told why it was done. So if we are here today to look at history, because if we fail to reckon with history, we might be condemned by it. And history tells us that Sierra Leone, even before independence, was a dependent territory. It became independent in '61, and that umbilical cord was still there. We did not make any attempt as a nation to reduce our dependency. Up till today, 58 years of independence, we are still a dependent state. Do you know the effect of dependency on politics? Have you studied the political economy of, African politics? We are dependent. We can be twisted anyhow. I am not here speaking like a radical, but I think it is high time. I think it is high time for us to know that our problems are rooted from the economy, which is the basis for the superstructure. And in the final analysis, is the determinant factor for every given relationship. Professor Silva told you that even as a rich family, when you come from a rich family, your disposition is different. But Sierra Leone is characterized by poverty, abject poverty. Go to the provincial areas and see how people suffer. How are we going to sort of extricate them from that poverty? So we need an economic system that should not be dependent, 90, 100%. That should not be donor-driven. And this is what we should be discussing, because its impact on politics is tremendous. Its impact on peace building is tremendous. Because when we talk of peace building, we realize that the United Nations, despite the best efforts it's made, it did not succeed throughout. We cannot talk of 90% of success of the peace mission. Because why? What about the youth unemployment? What can we talk about it? Reintegration. What can we say about it? Skills training. What can we say about it? Perhaps the only thing we can talk about is the creation of the Human Rights Commission, the Youth Commission. But what about trying to bring about investment in the country? We had to ensure that the enabling environment was created, but Sierra Leone could not create it. And Sierra Leone was going to fill the gap for the peace building. And as a poor developing country, we couldn't. It is what we call the Troki-Wambox Botian-Short syndrome. We want to do something, but Sierra Leone cannot do it. Not that the leaders were not having good intentions, even against the backdrop of bad governance and corruption, but they couldn't do it because the resources were huge. So now we should try to find out how we can have enough resources to even move this golden opportunity, this commission that is coming. You see, somebody talked about the psychology of poverty. It is very tremendous on the human being. Believe me, when you are poor, you think differently. When you are poor, you are prone to aggression because you become frustrated, and frustration leads to aggression. And don't forget, the state too should not forget that you don't need to manufacture revolutionaries. The thing is, you need to deliver the goods. The good intention of the state is that the social contract should be adhered to in terms of government, the performance legitimacy aspect. Because you would have sort of created a scenario when you would have been elected, that electoral consolidation in terms of entrance legitimacy, but you need to perform. You need to sort of do your own part of the contract to deliver social needs. And these are the areas a government should always try to deliver, because human security has become the utmost important factor for peace building. Which is why, if this particular topic has somewhat limited us, but I think we can look at the bearing of political theory on one side and theoretical politics and political science on the other, in terms of merging these two to tell you what theory says and what the practical politics is saying. The theory of politics will tell you that the state should be a unity. That the state should be likened to the organic theory, that when the food is put into the mouth, it has been beaten down by the incisors, it passes it to the premolars and molars, where the food is beaten down into pieces. It is rolled down through the esophagus or gullet and into the stomach. It's a process. And that process too is likened to the state. So the state should function properly. And an important vehicle for that is the political parties. Political parties despite Maurice Duverger, the French philosopher, says that they are divisive, but they should ensure that they are nationalistic enough to propel the objective of the state. Because the state was created for a purpose and not for a picnic. Although within the state you can enjoy, yes, but it was not created purposefully for picnic, It was created for a purpose, to help development. So if we're here today, trying to look at development, it's linked with security or peace building, I would say yes, there is a nexus and it is crucial to peace building. Very, very crucial to peace building. But the only snag, the only problem that we have as a developing country is that we are a dependency. We are a donor-driven country. How can we support peace building, which is vital to the existence of the state? How can we? This is what we should find out here. This is what we should work out here. Are we going to still practice Sierra Leone become an exporter of raw materials while we receive finished products? In terms of price, they are very colossal. Should we still maintain that imbalance? When we quested for a new international economic order in 1975, the developing countries, we were given deaf ears on the part of the northern countries, developed countries. How far can we boast of having inventions, transfer of technology? And without that, how can we propel ourselves to a middle-level country development? It's not easy. So we need to negotiate. Because here, I will not say we have an atavistic attitude towards those who have. Because don't forget that globalization is around. An important factor that is also inhibiting our development. What are we doing as developing state? Are we trying to somewhat encourage regional economic groupings? How far has Mano River Union gone? How far ECOWAS since 1975? What have we done? You see, so it's a problem. So we too, the Africans, have a problem. We need to come together. Africans need to come together. We need to solve our problems together. Even the Ebola crisis would have been solved easily and quickly with regional sort of arrangements. So we need to be thinking that. But now we don't want to. How many of us can speak French here to relate to Ivory Coast or Guinea? Few. We don't want to do it. Again, the educational system has made us conservative. Do you know that? The educational system has made you to be having a special taste, that elitist taste. Yes, and of course you become part of those that will alienate those that are downtrodden. And this is bad for a state. We need to have that unity because the inequalities are great. And inequalities in any country is a recipe. It's a recipe for chaos and anarchy. The hungry man is an angry man. And we don't need to create those people. Don't forget that man is born with an innate tendency. But he or she will not project it until being forced to do so when he or she cannot access basic needs. So no sooner you cannot access because of state failure, I'm afraid you've got a problem in your hands. That is why, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we should have a radical departure from the past in terms of even the political economy of our country. Let's think about what we can do with our electoral process, electoral system. Let's see what we can do with our economy. Let's see what we can do with our civic education. Don't forget that Madam Marcella talked about a primordial society. Primordial societies are those societies that do believe in customs and traditions. But do you want to tell me that we are practicing a system that believes on customs and traditions? Against the backdrop of homegrown democracy. But this time, we are practicing Westminster democracy, democratic rule, the rule of law, respect for the rule of law, human rights, decentralization, reduction of corruption, minimizing corruption, gender parity, decentralization, mutual tolerance, separation of powers. In all this, you have to practice. It contains an ethic that you cannot say that the ethical foundation we have. We didn't. It's only now we are practicing it, which is why government should put more on civic education to educate our people. Having a refined population would make politics much more easier. But in Sierra Leone, a lot of rumors. A lot of rumors. Because people do not understand. Even the politics of it, people do not understand. Which is why we need to buffet Sierra Leoneans with information, correct information. And I don't want the media to make more problems, particularly social media. Social media is playing on the sort of fact that a lot of people do not understand. So of the news that I've been hearing, I have to dismiss it in my area, telling them about, no, listen to them, the nonsense they talk. Don't say they happen. Yes! At times, if you're not careful, you will leave your house and run away. You see, but what I'm saying here, the nexus is there. So we say present and future. Yes, it is there, but the present, Sierra Leone is incapacitated in terms of finances, resources. It's not enough. We can ask our friends to help us in terms of programming. And the future, for us to ensure that the present, makes way for the future, we need to put our shoulders to the wheel. Sierra Leoneans should work very hard. It's one thing, you have to accumulate capital before ever you can start to invest as a Sierra Leonean. And when you look at other countries, even African countries, they've been accumulating capital. Instead of living, in a way that you waste a lot of resources. So if we want to stand as an independent state, although it's not easy to have a 100% sort of situation, we are still interdependent. But you ask yourself how much more we are, as a developing country, dependent on others. That if they do not give you today, you suffer. Things will go bad. We should also develop a situation that we believe in ourselves. As West Africans, as Africans, African organization should be sort of revitalized so that Sierra Leone will not see itself in isolation. So this will help us. And I think so far, I will not discuss the colonial aspect. No, it is past now. We need to forget about it. We need to work on. But like somebody was talking about respect for the governance principles. Governance principle presupposes the lubricants that you use for that engine of the state. Like what I have said, respect for the rule of law, human rights, transparency and accountability, mutual tolerance, that one we need. We are different, like what Madam Samba said. We are different. 17 tribes. As much as you say that the cultures are not too different, but we are different. And we need to accommodate each other. That accommodation alone is what gives us what we call legitimacy in politics. Nobody should be left behind. That accommodation gives us legitimacy. And politics is all about compromise and dialogue. If we fail to dialogue, then how would you coerce the other's side? You cannot coerce. It's based on free will, massive participation in the decision-making of governance. So I think I will stop so far. If I will have to talk again, I might dilate upon this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kargbo. I'm sure the audience will agree with me that we have had a very lively exchange of ideas on the topic and also bringing in things that are antecedental to the formation of this commission.